Welcome to everyone for this online session, as Bianca Baez mentioned, organized by the Embassy of the Dominican Republic in India on the occasion of the International Yoga Day. We are happy to be once again associated to this initiative of the government of India and to contribute to spread the knowledge in the Dominican Republic about this practice. We're also happy to have with us His Excellency Ramu Abagani, Ambassador of India in the Dominican Republic, who has been doing a lot to spread the culture of yoga in our country. These online conferences has become somehow a tradition since we have been organizing them for the past 3 years in a row with scholars and practitioners based in India. In 2021, we had with us the Spanish academic Oscar Pujols. Last year, Anuradha Chaudhuri joined us. And this year, we are honored to have with us Dr. Vinayachandra Banavati. This conference will be recorded and available in the YouTube channel of our embassy. And we are happy to inform you that the conference from 2021 and 22 will be very soon available in our channel. And we will make sure you receive a link for the connection to these conferences in your email. There are many ways of celebrating International Yoga Day. There are practical sessions of yoga being organized all around the world on the 21st of June. I was myself yesterday practicing yoga. Well, yesterday for us in India, but today still in Dominican Republic, practicing yoga with the Minister of State for External Affairs of India, Meenakshi Lekhi, early in the morning in the Old Fort of Delhi. But the yoga is not only a practical discipline, it is also a knowledge system. It has a theory that accompanies the practice. And the questions that Dr. Vinayachandra Banavati will address are the questions of the relation of yoga with happiness and well-being. How come we experience these feelings and condition when we embark on the journey of yoga? And what is in yoga that generates those feelings and conditions? Dr. Vinayachandra, being both a practitioner and a scholar, is particularly well positioned to answer these questions. He is a member of the founding team of the Chanakya University, where he currently directs the Center for Indian Knowledge Systems. He's also a co-founder of Indica Yoga, a platform that offers authentic and immersive yoga experiences and training. And he holds a master's degree and a PhD on psychological insights in the Vedas from Pondicherry Central University. Without further ado, I will ask His Excellency Ramu Abagani to say a few words of welcome before we give the floor to Dr. Vinayachandra. His Excellency Ramu Abagani, you have the floor.
Good evening, Ambassador David. Good evening, Vinayachandra. Good morning for you. Can you see and hear me? Okay. I don't normally switch on, but I switched on my video because I want to show off the yoga logo. I'm wearing yoga t-shirt because for us it is still a yoga day. We are in 21st of June. First of all, Ambassador David, I should thank you for this constant initiative, constant encouragement for spreading Indian wisdom in Dominican Republic. I'm glad to see some of colleagues with whom I work in promoting yoga, like Julie Bellish and a couple of other friends. I think supplementing each other's effort is very important to reach maximum audience. So I'm really grateful for that, Ambassador David. So I don't have to really say much, but just let me share my experience. I saw your beautiful videos and some commentaries in the Indian news media. And we also organized very successful International Yoga Day, which was celebrated on 18th for convenience of people to participate. I think with about 50 volunteers, all our volunteers, including Julie. I think it was very successful. We did it in Salon de Independencia in Ministry of Defense. And apart from Santo Domingo, we organized in 12 cities. So yoga is very popular here and lot of interest which encourages me to do more. So I'm sure that this, as you mentioned, Ambassador David, not yoga is not exercise discipline, much more deeper philosophy. I'm glad that you chose Vinay Chandra, who is with a lot of experience, lot of knowledge in Indian knowledge systems. Yoga is one of the important systems of Indian knowledge. So I'm sure that this will add more knowledge and wisdom to the people, practitioners, because it is also important to go and understand the philosophy behind the action. So I think that way it is extremely important initiative. And most of participants would be knowing that today which was chosen because it is the longest day of the year, summer solstice, and it is a initiative of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that the beautiful wisdom of yoga should not be limited to India, but it should be shared with everyone in the world. So as you know that India's vision is always big towards the world. We believe world is one family. So just not for the saying the world is one family, but need to take care of the world. So yoga is one important tool that where we can bring the peace to the individual. Once the individual becomes peaceful, the family, then society, the country, and the world. So the world peace cannot be something which comes overnight. It has to be built with everyone's effort. So yoga is one such tool which brings that peace to individual. So it is a very beautiful philosophy. I'm sure that I should not talk more about philosophical part because there is a expert talking on. But just to conclude, yoga is for the mind, body, soul, as everyone say. But it brings clarity in mind, purity in heart, sincerity in action. So this is the words of Sri Ravi Shankar, which he constantly say. So with these words, I want to thanks once again, Ambassador David. I may not continue, but if possible, I'll keep listening. I'm keen to listen, but as you know, it is already around 9 o'clock here and a couple of other engagements. So with these few words, I want to thank once again and wish a very useful session.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure, as I said, to be associated in this initiative that your government is conducting with success year after year. So with this, we close the introduction, and we will welcome Dr. Vinay Chandra Banabati, who will deliver his talk. He will be speaking for around 50 minutes, and then we will open for questions and discussions. So Dr. Vinay Chandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Namaste and good morning to all my friends in India, and buenos noches to all the friends in Dominican Republic. It's indeed a great honor to be here on this occasion to join the celebrations of International Yoga Day that is happening all over the world. In fact, it feels so good when the whole world unites on a cause, and a cause which has no personal intention. It's just for the good of the world. So that makes this event very special, and I'm particularly grateful to His Excellency Mr. David Pugh for this invitation and a very generous introduction, and also His Excellency Shri Ramu Abaganaji for leading the initiative on spreading the wisdom of yoga from the forefront. I think all these people are playing a very important role in sharing the wisdom of India, a wisdom that is really there for the benefit of each and every individual. So I'm once again grateful to all such people who are really making the right use of their position, of their influence, to take the right word, to take the right wisdom to every corner of the world. So thank you very much. And with these words of gratitude, I would like to move on to the topic of my presentation. In fact, when I received this invitation, I was wondering what should be the focus, what should be the theme. Then I felt maybe let me give it to the core of the yogic thought and keep it very simple as to focus on yoga as a science of health, happiness, and well being. I think if one thing that yoga is to promise us, I think that is health. So let us explore a little more about the concepts of health. What does yoga has to contribute in this regard, and how does that translate into achieving the goal of well-being? So this would be the focus of the talk. And with your permission, I would like to begin sharing my screen. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes.
In fact, I think I really appreciate what His Excellency Mr. David said. Yoga is not just a practice, it's much larger. It is a know how, it is a practice, it encompasses various dimensions. Therefore, it becomes a holistic system. So that's what we will be exploring as a part of this talk. We have always known the value of health, but I guess in the post pandemic and then the pandemic situation, we are much more aware of its importance. We were so conscious of our oxygen levels, we were so conscious of our other conditions of health, trying to monitor and to see whether we will be able to make it during the COVID pandemic or not. So whatever could have been the reason, but at least the pandemic has brought the right focus on the health. And that's where our whole discussion begins. So if I look back into what was the conceptualization of health, the way it has traditionally evolved in different spheres of the world, uh, one can always note that for a long time in the intellectual tradition of the world, the initial focus was on the physical health. If someone is physically fit, someone is capable of doing certain things at the physical level, if someone is carries that strength, perhaps he or she was considered to be healthy. So the definition of health was absence of diseases and strength, possessing of strength. For a long time in history, this was by and large the definition of health. But the world witnessed some situations where we really had to question this. There were people who were physically healthy, but they became the cause for death and destructions of thousands and hundreds of people in all parts of the world. It's not limited to any one particular region, but we have seen such people coming across the world who were really, so to say, as tyrants, who were terrorists, who were physically, they were very good, they had that strength, they had everything, yet there was something missing. And this brought the attention to the other important aspect. So it's not just physical well-being, but it's also the psychological or mental well-being, which is also important, right? And in the year 1946, we see WHO evolving a more holistic definition of health, where it says it's not just absence of disease, but a complete state of physical, mental, and social well being. So, individually, I might be good, but how do I act in a fraternity? How do I act when people are around? We have instances all over when someone is so helpful within the family, but he seems to be terrorizing outside in the professional realm or in the office or while interacting with others. The opposite is also true. There are people who seem to be such noble men and women outside, but the moment they step into the houses, into their families, they look like someone who has no iota of goodness in him or her. So there are such extremities. Therefore, it is not only just enough to have that well-being at the physical, mental, individual level, but also at a collective level. Therefore, social well-being is also important. So this was the definition, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Initially, it was absence of disease and infirmity, then the physical well-being, then came the mental well-being, and then the social well-being dimension into the concept of health. And interestingly, there was a lot of discussion around whether this definition is all compassing, all comprehensive or not. And therefore, in the year 1998, there was a special group which came up with a suggestion that perhaps WHO could consider rephrasing the definition and also include yet another important dimension, what they called it as the fourth dimension of health. And what is it? They say, while health is a complete physical and so on and state, but it's not a static state. It is a dynamic state. So maybe we should bring in that perspective too. Health is a dynamic state of complete physical, mental, and spiritual. They felt that spiritual is extremely important. There are other dimensions apart from these three, the physical, mental, and social. Therefore, that also we need to be brought in. Therefore, there was a recommendation to include it. And there were a series of consultations that happened in the WHO whether the definition could be modified. While most were inclined, there were some real challenges which the councils had to face, and therefore perhaps they felt in their wisdom that maybe we are not yet ready to have this alteration into the definition. The challenges were simple. Spirituality is something that is not very well defined. While there is physical, you have parameters for physical health. Of course, when it comes to mental, it is not so concrete or it is not so objective, yet you have questionnaires, you would have various other mechanisms to quantify it. Therefore, mental health can also be considered, and similarly for social health, where behavior can be monitored and it can be observed and it can be noted down. But how do I define spirituality? How do I quantify it? Were some of the questions. Because in modern science, quantification is extremely important. Until I quantify something, there is no way I can bring it into an academic discussion. That's the challenge of our current times. Therefore, while there was this consideration, yet it was formally kept outside the definition of health. But still, I think it makes a very good reading that there has been such thought to include spiritual component also as yet another dimension in the conceptualization of health. Health is a dynamic state of complete physical, mental, spiritual, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. I want you to keep this in mind, in the backdrop of your mind, as we proceed into look into what is the yogic concept of health then. Where does yoga come in this scheme? So going forward, this is one word that most of my friends in the yoga fraternity would be quite familiar. We use the word swastha to note anyone who is healthy, right? The Sanskrit word for a healthy person, healthy individual is swastha. The Ayurveda also uses this word swastha to describe an individual who is healthy. It defines, the definition is slightly long, but something like swastha prasanna atmendriya manah kriyaha. So someone whose atma, manas, indriya, all these, that is the mind, the self, the organs of the body and the functionalities of the body are working properly is a healthy person in Ayurveda. So the common word in Sanskrit and yoga and Ayurveda for a healthy person is swastha. And again, I also want to bring your attention to the beauty of Sanskrit here is that any word can be broken up into its components. You can trace it back to a root. You can see the prefixes or suffixes that are added so that the meaning of the word evolves in a beautiful organic form. The word swastha is derived from two components, swa and stha. Stha is the root word, swa is the prefix here. So what does it mean? Swa is self. Stha means being rooted or standing. So if put together, being in the self, being in one's essential nature is swastha. So swasthya, healthy, means he or she is healthy who is abiding in his or her own nature, who has a good standing in oneself is healthy person. This is how yoga and Ayurveda define the healthy personality. It has a lot of implications on the concept of health. What does it mean to be in one's own nature? What does it mean to be anchored in the self? If being anchored in the self is swastha, what does it mean to say when someone is not anchored? That brings us to the other component of other part of it, that is aswastha, right? This is the word that we use for someone who is not healthy. And again, it is not referring to a physical dimension at all here. If you look at the word per se, see what it is meaning, aswastha. There is a prefix a that is getting added to swastha. Swastha, you know, is a healthy person. Aswastha is a non-healthy person. And you have the component a, swa, and stha. So what does it mean? It simply means someone who is away from the self, someone who is not residing in one's own nature, someone who is not anchored in his self. So being away from our natural state. And therefore, that is sickness. And see how what implications emerge out of this kind of a definition. Health is your natural state, and unhealthiness is the being away from your natural state. That means illness or infirmity is not your natural state. Somehow we have been made to believe, the whole system in the modern and contemporary times makes us believe that unhealthiness is our natural state. But the yogic concept and the Ayurvedic concept very clearly puts the spotlight on this part, that health is our natural state. Unhealthiness is an aberration. It's a temporary state where the body or the system automatically tries to bring back to one's health. And that is the process of healing. So healing, if you look at swastha, aswastha, the movement from aswastha to swastha, from unnatural state to a natural state, from the state of not abiding in one's own true nature to towards moving towards abiding in one's own true nature is the process of healing. In fact, if you look at the word healing in English, or the way the word health has been defined, even if you trace them back to their roots, you get the similar meaning. So that is to say that across traditions, some of these ancient concepts, they had mirrored, they had a shared tradition of understanding, but over a period of time, we seem to have lost this wisdom. And this is not what just yogic concept is saying, but look at the way the body functions. When I broke a bone, what happens there? It's only the time when, or if you go to a doctor, he just adjusts the bone and puts a bandage or a cloth there, ties it up, and then he says, just wait for a few days, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then the bone naturally sets to its original position. Is there something that is being done from externally to heal the body? No, you're just allowing the time, and you're also allowing that space, and also ensuring that there is no further damage. That's exactly what we do. So, who's actually healing? The body is naturally healing itself, because health is its natural state. Disease or infirmity is its unnatural state. And always in nature, there is a movement from unnatural state to natural state, because it is only natural state that there is more stability. I mean, this is what even science confirms. What happens when an atom or an electron gets excited in an atom? It goes to a heightened state, and that is an unnatural state. Therefore, it emits something out so that the electron drops back to its orbit, again regaining its original state of stability. Similarly, unhealthiness is unnatural, and the body has all that power, capacity, and the technology to heal itself. And our intervention is only to ensure that this transportation is possible. There is no impediment, there is no roadblock in this transportation from unhealthy, from unnatural state to natural state. If swastha is one of the words that yoga and Vedanta uses, I want you to lead you to a specific definition in the Yoga Sutra. I'm sure most of you would be familiar with the Yoga Sutra text, which is one of the primary texts in the tradition of yoga, which in some 196 short statements, it lays out the essential teachings of yoga. The essential philosophy of yoga is brought out in 196 short statements, and that is what we call as Yoga Sutra text. We exactly don't know when this text was written or composed. There are attributes to show that it was perhaps written around 5th century BC. There is a wide time range that people attribute to it, but that is not the matter of our discussion in this particular session. We can keep it for some other time. But coming back to the content here, this is a text which brings about profound insights around yoga and in very short statements. That is the nature of the text called as sutra. The very first sutra says, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. From this point onwards, the definition of, or the understanding of, or the discipline of yoga begins. Okay, so that is the opening statement or the opening sutra. And the very second sutra, it says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So, yoga is nothing but the cessation or stoppage of the movements of the mind, the patterns of the mind, the coverings of the mind, the layerings of the mind. It says mind is covered with layers or it is filled with patterns, and yoga is a process through which you slow down these movements, you reduce the number of patterns, you decrease the number of layers that cover over the mind, and that is yoga. So in one statement, it brings about two things. One, the process and also an end state. Yoga is a state where there are no vrittis, or yoga is also the process whereby you slow down and finally completely remove all the vrittis is yoga. So both process and state, they get defined by this particular sutra. But the beauty comes in the next sutras. In the third sutra, it says, it starts with the line tada, that means then. So that is referring to the immediate past statement. When the vrittis of the mind have been slowed down and stopped. Okay? You need to make that connection there. When that has been done, what happens? It says, drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Drashtuhu means the seer or the individual. Avasthana again means resides. Swarupa is the word that Yoga Sutra uses here. In his essential form or nature. When the movements of the mind have been slowed down, when the distractions of the mind have been removed, when the patterns that define one's thinking have been eliminated, then the individual resides in his essential nature. Swarupa, in just matter of one word, it brings about a very deep philosophy. It says that is the essential nature of the individual. Being healthy is essential nature. Being happy is essential nature. Being in harmony is his or her essential nature. That is the essential nature. Swarupa. Swa, again, if you can recollect, swastha, there is also a prefix swa there. And here also you have the prefix swa, which means self. Rupa, the form or nature. So the individual resides in one's nature. What happens if one is filled with vrittis or filled with patterns? The next sutra brings that out. The fourth sutra, it says, vritti sarupyam itaratra, elsewhere, when one has not slowed down one's vrittis, when one is still bothered by or covered by the layerings of the mind, then vritti sarupyam, the individual starts identifying with every drama that is happening outside. It gives often an analogy where there is an individual who has gone to watch a movie or a play in a theater, and he's watching the characters donning these roles, and immediately this fellow is watching, he starts identifying. So there is a hero there. So this person starts identifying with the hero there. He looks at a heroine, he or she identifies with the heroine. There is a villain, he or she starts identifying with the villain and go through those emotional ups and downs. If someone is crying there, the individual starts crying. Someone is happy there, this individual is happy here. So this complete identification with the external drama that is happening, that is not one's natural state. That's what yoga clearly says in the third and the fourth sutra. And you can see the operating words there, swarupa and sarupya. Okay, so you have the words here. This is swarupa, and here it is sarupya. Sarupya, he or she gets identified with something else, which is not their natural state. So, whole process of yoga, again, if you look at from this definition, moving from sarupya to swarupa, moving from identified form to the essential form is the movement of yoga. Similarly, what we saw earlier, movement from aswasthya to swasthya is this process of healing. So here, movement of from identified state to a non-identified state where the individual resides in his or her essential nature is yoga. So yoga in that sense is also one of the greatest process of healing, right? It's also that movement. So let us see, how does this happen? What are the various elements involved in it? What is then the essential form and what is then the disturbed form? But if we have to know this, we also need to know a little more about the yogic conceptualization of personality. And that is where we come to the Panchakosha model. I'm sure most of you would be familiar with this personality theory. While all the systems of philosophy and psychology have their own conceptualization of human individual. Okay, if I take the Freudian system of psychology, there is a particular understanding of man. If I take the uh, behavioristic system of psychology, there is a particular understanding of man. So each and every psychological system, based on the philosophical foundation, it has a conceptualization of human being. And similarly, yoga psychology also has a very interesting and uh, insightful understanding of human personality. And that forms the basis for much of the practice that emerges out later. And this is called as Panchakosha model of the individual, or Panchakosha theory. So what does it mean? What are the different layers? And all these things appear in one of the Upanishads, which is a very interesting Upanishad called Taittiriya Upanishad. And in there's a beautiful story of a young boy who was committed to truth, who was really keen to understand the deeper layers of reality. So the story goes something like this. I'll not go to the details, but just give you a quick overview of the story. So this young boy, perhaps in his 8 years or 12 years, he gets so intrigued by this question that what is this? I know this individual as an individual, I'm here, but what is the ultimate reality here? So he starts asking this question. He goes to his father, who was also his teacher, and he asks him, please teach me, what is this ultimate reality? How do I understand this? I do get a glimpse, but I'm not fully certain as to how do I need to make sense of this existence. The father says, very good. I'm glad that you have this question. Why don't you sit and meditate? Why don't you sit and reflect for yourself? So the boy goes, he sits in meditation, or rather, he starts reflecting, and then he starts asking some fundamental questions. He says, if I look at this body, or if I look at this existence, what is that allows me to have this concrete experience? What is that I can touch, feel, and see? What is that immediately allows me that feeling that I'm alive, right? Oh, says, now I have realized it is the body. Because of this body, I'm able to do things. I'm able to move. I'm able to be alive. I'm able to feel. So there is hunger, there is desire, there is thrust. All these experiences, which are quite concrete, they happen on the physical layer. Therefore, physical body is the ultimate reality. He goes to his father and says, I have figured it out, everything. So the father asks, okay, what's that then? So he explains whatever he has realized, and the father says, very good, you're on the right track. Why don't you pursue this question further? So the boy goes back and again starts questioning, what can there be more beyond this physical body? Then as he starts exploring, he says that, see, the body is there, but perhaps when people say someone has died or someone dies, the body is still there. The body continues to be there, yet that is lifeless. There is no energy there. And whatever happens during that point, there's something in the body till that point, and at that point, that seems to leave the body. And when that leaves the body, the physical body with all there are organs, there is everything that you had till the previous second. But after this second, the body is useless. Then there must be something more subtle than the body. So therefore, the student says, or the boy says, there must be something called energy, the prana. Okay, the prana seems to be something that animates the body. As long as prana is there in the body is alive. The moment prana leaves the body is dead. Therefore, let me go to a subtler dimension, that is prana. He goes to his father, narrates this, and the father is very appreciative of it. Is, you are really on the right track. I think you should pursue this question further. So the student comes back, the boy comes back and starts reflecting further. Yeah, of course, there is body, there is a prana, which I know, like, even though I'm fit, sometimes I feel like doing something and I don't feel like doing something. So it's only when the energy movement happens, I can do something, right? But now, what actually pushes the prana also to work, right? There are people who have a very good physical body, yet they don't act at all. What holds them back from acting? We have stories in history across all traditions where someone was so powerful, someone was so capable, yet they did not realize their strength. It's only when someone came and reminded them that they have so much power, like in the case of Hanuman. In Ramayana, one of the most important texts of the tradition, he had so much power, he could move a mountain, but he always felt inferior. It was only when another senior person called Jambuwan reminded him, you have been cursed. There was a sage who had cursed you not to remember your powers. Therefore, you don't know the capacity you have. Now is the time when you realize that. It's only after this shift happened, immediately he became so powerful, he could fly over the entire Indian Ocean to reach Sri Lanka. And there are many other feats that he does later. So we have one, I just quoted one story, but I'm sure across all traditions, we have stories like that. Despite all the strength at the physical level, as long as one is not mentally aware of it, cognizant of it, nothing is possible. And we have seen in people who have limitations at the physical level, yet just because of their mental strength, they're capable of achieving incredible things in their lives. Therefore, he realizes, okay, subtler to the body, subtler to the prana, there is something called as the mind, that is the mental layer. So, as a human being, mind is so important. Therefore, mind is the essential reality in this being. He goes to his father. Father is so happy to see his son on the right track, and he says, very good, why don't you explore it further? So the boy comes back and starts wondering, what could there be more subtler than the mind? Of course, mind is everything, right? But then he begins to see, while mind is there, mind functions, there is also a layer, a deeper layer, where the ideas come, the intuition come, the inspiration comes, right? Without inspiration, nothing happens. If an artist is creating a thing of beauty, which is a joy forever, the and you ask the artist where it came from, he it is not necessary that he watches something outside and he recreates it. There's an inspiration that comes from deep within. He says, I don't know where it came from, but I had a glimpse of it, right? So there is a deeper layer from where inspiration, all these intuition, all these emerge out. Okay, and that is a layer which is even deeper than the mind, the intellectual sheath or the wisdom sheath. So he goes with this idea to his father and says, yes, now I've figured everything out. I have found out the ultimate reality, and that is Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the wisdom body, or the intellectual sheath. And the father says, yes, you're almost there. You're almost there. See if this is the final, or if anything more is there to this. And he sends the son back. Son starts wondering, I don't know. I seem to have reached the ultimate point, and I don't see a need to pursue further, but let me still reflect on it. So he starts questioning. Fine, I'm doing this. I'm pursuing a line of questions. Why am I doing this? What is pushing me in the quest of truth? Or for that matter, as an individual, whoever it is, when they do something, why do they do? What actually pushes them? Someone goes to a gym, someone sits for meditation, someone is eating, someone is working. So, I mean, people do thousand things. In fact, you call them alive when they're doing things. But why do people do whatever they do? So he starts probing this. What am I seeking? I'm asking this question. It is for the intellectual curiosity that I have. But what is that I'm going to get out of it? Pursuing for this, whatever I am doing is for the sake of my happiness. If I were not to be happy, then perhaps I would not have pursued it at all. If I'm on the job because I get salary, or I am happy with the job. If I'm not happy with the job, yet I will pursue my job because at the end of the month I'm going to get my salary, and that salary or that the money goes to will make me happy. So similarly, whatever it is I am pursuing in my life, it's only for the sake of happiness. So happiness seems to be the ultimate driving factor in every individual. And why? What does it mean when I say happiness is the ultimate driving factor? If I take this analogy, when I'm looking for something, when I'm searching for something, what am I searching for? Generally, I search for something that I seem to have lost. I'm looking for my keys all around. I had my keys. I might have left it somewhere. Now I'm trying to go back and get my keys. So I'm looking for my keys. So what does it mean? It means that I had it with me at some point of time, and immediately previous occasion, I seem to have lost it, and therefore there is this strong urge to go back towards it. There is such a strong need in every individual, and no individual is an exception to this rule that I need happiness. What is my understanding of happiness might vary from individual to individual, that we will take up in a different session. But here, there is a strong urge in every individual. Everyone wants to go back to that place because that is his or her place, that is his or her home, that is his or her homeland, and therefore they need to get back. And the individual realizes, the young boy realizes this, and he's so convinced that this is the ultimate reality that he doesn't even go to his father this time. It's always when you know something by deep conviction, you don't need an affirmation from outside. This is a psychological interesting observation. People seek for affirmation from outside only when they are not convinced, or when they're confused, or when they're not confident enough. You ask people, am I looking good? Was my talk good? Did I do it better? When you ask this question, it's also, there is, of course, a humility could be one aspect, but there's also a dimension of lack of confidence. Therefore, we need an external affirmation from outside. In all the four phases earlier, the boy goes back to the father because he was not so sure. Well, he felt he was sure, but there was deep down, there was some kind of doubt that was lingering still. But here, when he has reached that ultimate understanding, he doesn't even bother to go back to his father and ask, is this the right one? So goes the story. But coming back, so this is what we call as the Panchakosha model of an individual. There are all these layers of reality. It's not that physical is not real, only the bliss body is real. No, there is a bliss body, there is a wisdom body, there is a mental body, or mental or an emotional body, there is a pranic body, and there is a physical body. And all these layers are real, They have their own functionalities, they have their own purpose to achieve. There are different modalities of working with each one of them. So this gives us a very comprehensive perspective of human personality. So health means being in all these, in the natural state at all these levels, being in the natural state at the wisdom body, being in the natural state in the mental body, being in the natural state in the energy body, and being in the natural state in the physical body. Ill health, disease means being away in one of them or all of them or some of them, it doesn't matter, but being away from the natural state is ill health or disease. So that brings us to the next question: what is then the nature at all these levels, and what is the disturbance at all these levels, right? So a quick recap again: there is Annamaya, that is physical; Pranamaya, that is life force; Manomaya, the third, that is the mental; Vijnanamaya is intellectual; Anandamaya is the bliss body. The nature of the physical body is to be relaxed, and this you can observe in children and babies, right? The kind of flexibility that they have. Flexibility comes when the body is relaxed. As we grow, why do we lose flexibility? We lose flexibility because there's so much of tension, agitation that gets embedded into the body. Like when you begin a yoga class, and when you take them to a forward bending pose, that is Pada Hastasana, and ask people to touch the toes, they start wondering whose toes should I touch. Just imagine from where to where we have come. As a young child, as a baby, I could have easily not touched my toe, but I could have taken my toe into my mouth. A lot of babies do, right? They keep their toes in their mouth. It was so easy for them. There was no rigidity, there was no tension. But now, just to forward bend and to reach towards the floor or the toe becomes so difficult because tension gets embedded, rigidity gets embedded in the muscle level. Okay? As the muscle gets rigid, our flexibility is lost. So the nature at Annamaya Kosha is to be relaxed, that is to be flexible, and being away from the natural state, that is the disturbed state, is to be in tension. Just look at the way we lead our life, the kind of demands that we have. Everything keeps on adding to our tension, right? There's so much of anxiety, worry about everything, that it not just comes to the mind, but it also gets embedded into the body. And then when you move into the Pranamaya Kosha at the life force level, to be slow is one's nature, okay? Because life force enjoys spreading through your body and moving all around in its own pace. But look at the way we breathe when we are disturbed. The short breath, and short breath has implication. Just if you look at the lifespans of different individuals and different animals, a dog lives for only hardly 20 years, 14, 15 years is its the peak lifetime. Why? How does it breathe? You can observe how fast it breathes. A tortoise lives up to mythologically, people say about 200, 250 to 300 years, but I think by observation, science says it lives up to 125 years or 150 years at times. How does it breathe? There's such a slow pace of breathing. The air goes in, the whole body gets oxygenated, and then the air comes out, right? And we were also observing this during the COVID time. What is the oxygen saturation? And in the best way, the oxygen saturation improves is by slow breathing. So I'm just referring to one concrete expression of prana, that is the breath, but there are many other subtler dimensions to prana, which I won't be referring to at the moment, but just it's enough to understand that there are various subtler dimensions, and in all these dimensions you can actually notice this, that there is a slow movement of prana that happens, and that is the natural state, and the speed is the disturbed state. Then moving on to the next level, that is Manomaya Kosha, the mental level, to be calm, to be in a state of harmony is the natural state. And all these things, again, you can see in children. Even if they fight, in just a matter of few seconds or at most minutes, they can go with that other person with whom they had fought. But see what happens with grown-up individuals. You had one small fight, one small ego issue, and you don't like to speak to them for years together, forget days together, and sometimes you don't even speak to them for the entire life. The moment they appear in front of you, there's a whole set of agitation and disturbance that occupies you. Oh, why is this fellow coming in front of me? I don't like to see his face. See the way the whole system starts reacting. And that is at the mental level, right? I'm just saying, like, when you, as a young child or a kid, or we always are in our nature. That's why we have so much of energy. We can do all those things. It's only as we start growing up, when we start adding layers at all the levels, whether it's the fat at the bodily level, whether it's the agitation at the pranic level, whether the speed at the life force level, or the kind of lenses that we use to see people and the world as we grow up at the mental level, all these things add the coverings, and that is when we are weaned away from our natural state. And at a deeper level, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellectual or the wisdom sheath, normally the state of the mind is not to be obsessed with things. Oh, this is my idea. This is the way it needs to be done. No, you're quite flexible. Flexibility is not just the quality of the body, flexibility is also the quality of the intellect. When you spend time with wise people, you can always see, you can observe them that they don't have very strong positions on things. They can see the light or the implications of either position. Okay, and their presentation is very clear. See, if you take this position or if you take this decision, this is the implication. If you take decision B instead of decision A, then that also has implication, and these are the consequences. It is now for you to decide whether you have to go this way or this way. Wise people, they don't insist that you should do this only. Why? Because they are not fixed. There are no fixations. They're not obsessed as to this is right path, this is wrong path. Yes, there will be some guidance. Looking at all the factors, I can say this is perhaps better for you at this phase or stage, but I let you take the decision. This is how wise people say. In fact, if you are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, one of the again important texts of the yoga tradition, Krishna gives a long sermon or a lecture as to what is the right thing to do at that moment to Arjuna, who was really disturbed, who was worried, who was unsure of what he should do at that moment. And after seeing everything, Krishna says, now you decide what you would like to do. I have mentioned what is right, what path to be followed, but it's now your time to decide what is that you want to do. I mean, that's such an open approach to things. If we were to have this kind of an approach at the individual level, family level, society level, and at the country level, many countries get into fight because of their egos, right? This would have been so simple and harmonious. And that's why yoga is so important. It tries to what is our natural, it tells us what is our natural state and what is our disturbed state. So at Vijnanamaya Kosha, having no obsessions, having no fixations is our natural state. But when things get messed up, we become rigid. No, this is the only way of doing this. This is the only religion. This is only true religion. All these things appear because there is something that is not right at the Vijnanamaya level. Okay? And then moving further, at the Anandamaya level, at the deep aspect of your personality that is generally in harmony. Okay, being in tune with oneself, being in tune with nature, that is its natural way of existence. And normally even this state doesn't get disturbed, it only gets covered. So that's when we start feeling disharmony. So the nature of or being healthy means to be relaxed, to be slow, to be calm, being without fixations, and being in harmony. And the unnatural state or the disturbed state or dis-ease state is being in tension, being in speed, being agitated, being anxious, being rigid, and having a sort of disharmony with the immediate surrounding. That is the manifestation of disturbance or disease. Now, how does yoga help here? So it has given us this whole framework. Okay, this is the knowledge, the know-how of it. But yoga does not end with only the know-how or information or just the philosophy. It also provides us with the time-tested technology. If this is my unnatural state, and if I also know what is my natural state, how can I walk back from my unnatural state to the natural state? That is the technology component. And how does it do? It understands the holistic relationship of this entire mechanism. It sees the mind, it sees the body, it also has identified the pranic connection, the bridge in between. And when I say pranic, the physical manifestation of the pranic linkages are in the nervous system, in the endocrine system, the immune system, and the respiratory system. All these are the aspects which reflects the pranic system in the body. So yoga recognizes that there is a very strong relationship between mind, prana, and the body. I can use body to influence prana and the mind. I can use mind to influence prana and the body. I can use prana to influence mind and body. It recognizes this strong connection and using one medium to influence the other two. And therefore, it has evolved series of practices. See, if I consider only body as reality, then I might just come up with one set of body, or going to the gym, or walking, or Pilates, or exercise, something that focuses only on the body. If mind is the only reality, then I might say, oh, meditation is the only answer for all the problems. No, yoga doesn't do that. It identifies that there are multiple layers and each layer is a reality which needs to be addressed. Therefore, it has developed practices at all these levels. At Annamaya Kosha, at the physical level, you have asana practice, you have kriya practice, you have various, some practices fall in more than one category also. For example, mudra. Mudra is a practice where you sync certain fingers or the parts of the limbs with one another, right? That also regulates your prana flow, and it is also a physical posture. So some practices, they go beyond one category, but for the sake of simplicity, I've just put them in one category. So asana, kriya, mudra especially, they work at the physical level. Similarly, pranayama, that is the regulation of breathing. Mudra, again, they act at the pranamaya level or the life force level or the pranic body level. Then you have various techniques of relaxation, meditation, mantra chanting, bhavana. There is a special set of practice called as bhavana, which is there in the Yoga Sutra text. So all these are pertaining to the mental level. And at the intellectual level, you have specialized paths of Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Jnana Yoga uses the cognitive ability of the individual to lead him And Bhakti Yoga uses the emotional connect or love to help the individual to outgrow his fixations or obsessions. So, in this manner, it recognizes the need of every level and has developed time tested technology or set of practices or tools so that you move from the disturbed state of that level to the natural state. I'm rushing slightly because of the time. So, if you actually put together in one shell what yoga is, what are the dimensions, what does it do? On one side, you can see it acts on the mind, on the other side, on the body, but it also does everything in between. So, right from relaxation to enhancing strength and flexibility, relief from pain and suffering, which is hardcore reality at the bodily level, to enhanced capacity of the body, of the prana, towards greater mastery or control, increasing or enhancing positive emotions or happiness, and helping one to reach a state of witness consciousness, to be an observer and filled with awareness. So, this is the entire cycle that yoga can contribute towards. One practice of asana itself can contribute towards all these things. Practice of meditation will contribute towards all of these. Pranayama will also contribute towards all of this. While each practice can contribute to all of this, the practice largely aid towards one of them. For example, asana will definitely aid you more towards your capacity building at the bodily level, enhancing your strength, enhancing your flexibility, and relieve you from your pain and gain greater mastery over your body. So that is more of the focus there. So in this manner, any practice of yoga in the larger toolkit of yoga, they contribute towards all these ends. However, there's 1, 2, or 3 or 4 specific purposes or outcomes of that practice. And then, if I have to just summarize what yoga offers us, it has an extensive knowledge base, time tested technologies, operates at multiple levels, as we saw, right from Annamaya, the physical most, to the spiritual or the bliss sheath, uses all functional principles. Each level has its own principles, how they operate, right? The way I deal with prana, I can't deal with the bodily level. That requires a different approach. Therefore, it understands these levels and the functionalities and appropriately develop the tools. And finally, it results in positive health, enhanced well-being, in addition to rehabilitation healing. Rehabilitation healing is in the first quadrant where you're still trying to reach at a healthy state, but it does not just leave you at the healthy stage, it takes you further up. That's where the positive health, enhanced well-being, happiness, all these things come in. Okay. And finally, to summarize, yoga is that upward spiral. It helps us to grow and outgrow. The practices start from physical, mental, intellectual, and spiritual being. So, from the physical, it has the wide range of practices up to the spiritual personality. It leads us from sickness to absence of illness, right? That is the first step. Many people go to yoga because of some bodily issues or some mental issues. So moving them from unhealthy state to healthy state is the first level. And again, in the healthy state, moving them to positive health, flourishing, happiness is the further push. And in this entire journey, there is a feeling. We start with the feeling of being limited, helpless, and from that level, it takes us to the individual who has freedom and who has power, right? That is the important aspect of this journey. And also, it is a movement from material to spiritual. And if I have to borrow the motto of your country, I've just or change the sequence. The sequence was God, homeland, and freedom. I'll just say homeland. That is my original state. the state of being in yoga, and that brings me freedom, and that is the all-powerful or the God or the godly state or the Buddha state. So the movement, the upward spiral is what that move takes us to our own homeland, that is happiness, that is bliss, the state of flourishing and well-being, and which is accompanied with all the freedom to act without being prejudiced, and that is the godly state. So this is the upward spiral which yoga takes us to, and therefore the world has been uh, receiving this wisdom in open arms. It doesn't matter which tradition, which country, which race an individual comes from, people get to experience the benefit. It doesn't matter even what their religious consideration is, what their faith is. It doesn't obstruct in anyone's faith. In fact, I have a lot many friends where I teach, travel and teach in Europe, where they have said yoga and Vedanta have made us better Christians. We are able to connect with Christ much better because of our understanding of yoga and Vedanta. And that's why yoga has been received with such open arms. And when the International Yoga Day was proposed, more than 170 countries supported this resolution, I think. And that itself tells that it is possible only because people experience it. See, cognitively, you can accept something, but when it comes to one's experience, there can be no question about it. There is no doubt about it. And therefore, there's such openness and receptivity from people across the world. And therefore, yoga is that holistic science of happiness and well-being, because it takes into consideration the entire personality. That makes it holistic. It also takes into consideration the requirements of an individual, different requirements at different phases of life. Like, in different individuals have different requirements, and the same individual has different requirements at different phases of life. So yoga takes into consideration all these aspects and also provides both the know-how, that is knowledge, and also the technology, and therefore that is holistic. So yoga is therefore a holistic science of happiness and well-being. Thank you. Thank you for your patience and this opportunity to share a few words on the heritage of yoga and the promise that it holds for humanity. And the theme of this year being Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that is, the whole world is one family. I think there's nothing more than yoga that can lead us towards this goal. If the sense of family is to be brought in, there needs to be harmony. Harmony at the individual level, harmony at the family level, harmony at the social level, and harmony at the global level. And there's no better tool than yoga that can help achieve this. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Banavati. It's been great to listen to you. And as always, when I hear a scholar of yoga trained in the Indian tradition and trained in the Indian institution, one thing that I always appreciate is not only the content, but also the way things are weaved together and brought together. How you started from the let's say Western definition of health, how that Western definition has broadened and in a way gotten close to the traditional Indian definition. How do you explain the difference between health and unhealthy? How it relates to being in your own self and being away from yourself, and then of course layering all that with the different let's say realms of the body and the mind that can be healthy or unhealthy, and then finally the resolution, how yoga can help us restore the balance, right? Restore the balance in all these five different layers. I would like to see if anyone has comments, questions. Let's see. We're putting this in the chat. If anyone wants to say something, comment, I will leave the floor. And otherwise, I will ask you one question,
Sure.
but I will not be the first one. So let's see if anyone. I see many people are thanking you in the chat. I see thanks, so that means your message has been well received. Ambassador Bagani had to leave before, but also thank you. The conference has been recorded. I think it's a bliss that we have it on record, so that it can be shared with all the people that could not join us, that had previously signed up but could not make it tonight. Well, since I see no questions, I will just want to ask you, Dr. Banavati, not directly about your talk, but about Indica Yoga, which is an initiative that you have co-founded and that you co-direct in India, and that aims to, I will say, share the knowledge of yoga and the practice. But I would like to know, and that will be interesting for the people who are joining us, who are yoga practitioners, who also have the same aim, but in the Dominican Republic, which is to spread the yoga. What does Indica does? Where was this idea born from, and what is different in this initiative from other initiatives? How does it operate? I think that will be of interest at the practical level. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for this question. Also, thanks to all the participants and friends who have expressed their gratitude here. Indica Yoga, we started Indica Yoga about 4 years back. Some of us have been in the field of yoga for almost nearly 2 decades now, and while we were traveling and teaching, like Anuradha and I, we do travel together, and we used to spend about 3 months in Europe up until 2019, working with different universities and also working with yoga organizations, including yoga federations in Europe and in US as well. So there were some observations that we had. We felt that there are different challenges that are emerging in the field of yoga. One is having a reductionist approach, reducing yoga only to asanas, reducing yoga to relaxation, or sometimes there are even some strange distortions that happen occasionally here and there. So we thought we could do something which brings about the holistic nature of yoga. So we made a charter for ourselves that we will focus more on the deeper philosophical and psychological foundations of yoga. While asana is popular and it is so concrete that everyone feels it, we should be able to connect it to a deeper philosophy and psychology, because as I said, yoga is also has a very clear-cut, well laid out psychological frameworks. So we thought of taking this to people. So Indica Yoga focuses more on the philosophical and psychological dimensions in all that it does. We also felt that looking at yoga without being aware of 2 other close streams of knowledge, that is Ayurveda and Vedanta, will also make it a little incomplete. Therefore, like Ayurveda gives us a more physical basis and Vedanta gives us a spiritual direction. Therefore, we thought of building active bridges between Ayurveda and yoga, and similarly yoga and Vedanta in all our activities. So this was the second point in our charter. And we also noticed that mantra chanting or Sanskrit, which actually aids in one's deepening of one's own practice, even if it could be asana practice, but through mantra and through Sanskrit, they can actually have a deeper experience. Therefore, we thought of including those two. So some of these we felt will add to a deeper experience of yoga. Therefore, in all our activities that we do, whether it's online courses, programs, festivals, or courses, or actual physical events, retreats, and workshops, we try to include these dimensions. So and also Indica Yoga is not a school per se. It is not one institution. It is more of a platform. It works with teachers across the world. So we curate programs with the teachers. They will be either teaching asana or pranayama or one of the aspect, and we will augment it with philosophy, with psychology, with Sanskrit, with mantra, so on and so forth. So we are open to working with different teachers, different traditions, but anyone who believes that yoga has a larger framework rather than just the physical dimension. So that is how we seek to operate, and that is what Indica Yoga has been doing. If any one of you would like to visit our website, that is www.indicayoga.com, and there you can see we have host of teachers who have come on our platform. In fact, every week now we have 3 programs: Yoga Insights, Yoga Pravesha, and Veda Sampada. So where we feature at least 3 or 4 different teachers every week. So we reach out to people, we get them on board, we organize events, and this is that kind of platform which gets people together in the larger cause and spirit of yoga.
Well, thank you very much. Very interesting. We will share, actually, it's in the chat. We've put the website, the address of the website in the chat, and we'll be sharing that with all the people that we have in our mailing list who are interested in yoga in the Dominican Republic. So,
and just to add, we also have a YouTube channel under the same name, and all our videos are open for anyone. It's completely free, and we really had some very eminent people from across the globe. In fact, we had 2 global festivals of yoga where we had about more than 120 teachers from 25 different countries participating, and all their talks, and each one is one of the tallest personalities in their field. So we have such people who have been featured, and all these talks are available for everyone on Indica Yoga YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you. Again, anyone, any questions, comment? No, I don't see anyone raising the hand. So I just want to ask you the last question, and then we can conclude. And it's regarding the university where you got your PhD, which is the Pondicherry University. I understand also Anuradha Chaudhuri did her PhD at the Pondicherry University, and I was wondering, why is this university known for yoga, known for advanced studies in yoga, and are there any other universities in India that offer this kind of PhD and training? So that, I think, will also be interesting for people in Dominican Republic wanting to know more about higher studies in the yoga field, not only teachers training, not only asanas training, but really pursuing a degree, a serious degree in the philosophy of yoga.
For me personally, it appeared to be a coincidence that I was studying and teaching in some other university. I happened to see an advertisement from Pondicherry University calling applications for PhD, and blindfolded I applied there. There was something, of course, it was not at the mental level, it was perhaps at the intuitive level, the Vijnanamaya Kosha that was working there. So I just had this inspiration and applied there, and was fortunate to get a very good guide who was also the guide of Anuradha Chaudhuri. So it appears to be coincidence, but I'm sure there was a greater design, a grander design behind that. And since my working was also on the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. For me, it was much more a natural possibility that I do this PhD, this research work in Pondicherry University. Pondicherry is a place where Sri Aurobindo, one of the greatest modern yogis of India, who lived there and who did his sadhana from that place. So that's how it happened to me. But otherwise, Pondicherry University is a general university. It has all the streams. They do, of course, have a good Sanskrit department as well as a philosophy department. We did our PhDs from Sanskrit department, but similarly, it can be pursued under philosophy department also. But apart from that, there is this yoga university in Bangalore, Yes Vyasa, which is a dedicated university for yoga. So a lot of research around yoga, lot of publication around yoga. I think around nearly 60% of research publications, science publications have come from this institute called Yes Vyasa. Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthana, being headed by Dr. H.R. Nagendra. So they have been pioneering in this area, and that would be a good place where they offer short-term courses, master's program, PhD program in yoga, both in the clinical side and also non-clinical philosophical side as well. So if someone is interested, they can perhaps look into the website of Yes Vyasa Yoga University. Similarly, in Haridwar and Rishikesh, you have Deva Sanskriti Vishwavidyalaya or Deva Sanskriti University, which is also dedicated to yoga, which has a very good standing. Apart from it, there are another 2 or 3 universities which have come up in recent years for yoga. And the university which I am part of, Chanakya University, one of the primary commitments of this university is for Indian knowledge systems. At the moment, we do have general programs, but general programs integrated with Indian knowledge systems. And shortly, maybe in a year or two, we'll have dedicated programs in these specific domains as well.
Excellent. So there is choice for people wanting to
Yes.
to pursue higher studies in yoga, in the yoga field in India. Well, thank you very much. I think there are no questions. It's now past 10 p.m. in the Dominican Republic. As I said, we will make sure the video is edited and online and available. We will share it with all the people that register for the talk, and it will be in our YouTube channel. We thank very much the Ambassador of India in the Dominican Republic who joined us. We thank very much all the people who were present tonight. And of course, Mr. Banabhati, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you. And of course, we have to thank Dr. Anuradha Chaudhuri, who introduced us to you. I hope that we can meet in person, that we can continue this conversation, and maybe that some people in the Dominican Republic become interested in Indica Yoga and can follow what you have to offer and see all the resources that you have put together in your website. So thank you very much, and looking forward to continuing our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.